So made it to pick up my wife. I'm just mad I had to go through all that just to come pick up my wife. You know, I try to be as law-abiding people as possible. I will not say citizen, but I try to abide by their laws as much as possible. Do all the right things. I don't even like speeding, as far as they can call it. I make cautious turns. Actually, while coming here, a detective actually blew his horn at me because I was waiting for the light to turn green before I would make a right-hand turn. So he got upset at me because I wasn't moving quick enough. Then I had another state trooper run up behind me and speed off and look at me because I wasn't going fast enough. So the fact that Caroline County cops, who usually stay around Annapolis area, came all the way down to a little tiny town, Preston Gym, which is not more than maybe 10 minutes wide, to come see me, and the fact they knew where I was at, no, I can't change my skin tone. The fact they knew where I was at is the real problem, because I'm trying to figure out how much surveillance and how much stalking do you have to do to know I'm at the gym at like 1:30 in the morning? Because that is not a normal hour for most people to be at the gym. I know it's a 24-hour gym. I don't really post that many times about me being at the gym in the first place, but to know that they are watching me while I'm at a gym, working out, just training myself, trying to get ready for my competitions that I do, is a little perplexing to me. And I don't know if you can see my hat, it says Performance. I like Performance. Shout out to Performance. I'm not trying to, do any kind of promotional stuff, but, I love Performance because I love their stuff. But the fact they would come to those lengths to try to attempt to interrogate me while I'm doing my workout, and not even in my car, is crazy. It's crazy. And the fact that they did not know their own laws and got upset because I could recite them to them shows how much more training is necessary for law enforcement to actually do their job properly. Because if you can not articulate your reason for being in a place in the first place, you cannot just talk to someone in a respectful tone and not try to intimidate them by holding your gun while inside a gym. Only 2 people there. Had to be buzzed in because you didn't actually have access to the gym. Questioning me about my access to the gym, knowing I was the only one there, and the other gentleman had said that I was there before him. My car was parked for hours because I got to the gym at like 11:30, and they showed up at 1:30, or around that time. And they don't know the law, and that is a clear problem with law enforcement. Because if you don't know the law, how do you enforce law that you don't know? I had to advise them because I guess they were unaware that you cannot ask for identification without probable cause. You cannot forcibly try to get identification because as public servants, they are only allowed to ask questions. A cop cannot demand anything because he works for you, the people. So they have no demanding power. They can only ask questions. So if they do anything else besides ask a question and try to tell you to give them anything, that is acting under color law, which is a felony. So you call them out on their felony. You tell them, hey, are you committing a felony right now? Because you're demanding something that you have no access and no ability to demand in the first place. So you ask them about their felony that they're trying to commit. And what they'll do is still try to intimidate you, because that's what they do. We need more people who understand law itself. I don't want to go to any more lawyers where they tell me I know more law than they do, because that shows me that you don't actually practice law, which they don't. They are attorneys at statute. And what most people don't understand is governments cannot write laws. Laws are written by the people, not a government. Government can never write a law. Even the Supreme Court can only clarify the laws that have already been written by the people. Don't ever let anybody try to confuse you with that, because they'll tell you all day that, oh, they wrote a law, this law, that law. That's not a law. It's literally called a judicial policy. Judicial policy. I'm actually reading a book on it. It's called Courts and Judicial Policy. And a lot of times in the book they say law. Well, that's not law. I tolerate it because, you know, they are trying to get a point across to people who are supposed to take away your rights. And don't ever let them take away rights, because we have this thing, especially in the state of Maryland. Maryland is very funny because Maryland is one of the most liberal, as you could call it, or patriotic states they have when it comes to their laws. Their constitution is so binding that you cannot even have your license taken without a jury trial. They will never tell you that, because they'll just take your license and say it's suspended and whatever bullshit they tell you, whatever. But literally it says in Article 24, they cannot take your license or any privilege that you may have or right without a jury trial. So if there's no jury trial, they are acting under color of law and they have committed a crime. Now, whether or not you let them commit a crime, that's on you. But I will refuse to let anybody commit a crime against me. And I'm not going to help you commit any crimes. So if you ask me for identification without a probable cause or a clear-cut crime that you have seen or have been advised of, I am never going to give you anything, because you haven't shown me a need to. And if, no, I'm not a lawyer. Well, by definition of Black's Law Dictionary, I am a lawyer, because a lawyer by definition is one who studies the law. Now, an attorney is one who works for the court system, who practices statutes. That's an attorney. He practices statutes. I do not practice statute. I live by law. I study law. I do it in my spare time for fun. And that is how I learned all this stuff, because of the fact I kept getting harassed like this. So when you keep getting harassed like this, the best thing to do is learn how to make sure you don't get harassed anymore. And even if you are harassed, they walk away. And as you saw in the video I posted on Facebook and YouTube, when I started talking about let's look at the law, they didn't want to talk about law. They just threatened to say, oh, well, don't get in your car. Well, I'm going to get in my car. It's my automobile. It's purchased by me. It's in my name. And you have no jurisdiction over an automobile. You have jurisdiction over vehicles, which are commercial in practice, but you do not have jurisdiction over automobiles, which are for pleasure. And there's a big, clear difference that the Supreme Court has already stated many times over. Even trying to lock me up without probable cause, seeing how it literally says in battle versus the people versus battle. Traffic violations or traffic infractions are not a crime. So if there's no crime, you cannot lock me up. The worst you can do is just write me a ticket or give me a citation. I'm always safe. That is the problem, because like I said, I don't speed. It's not one of the things I like doing. I don't like traffic. I try to stay away from as many people as possible. Even when I talk slow to make sure everything is clearly understood, because I used to stutter a lot. So when you do things like this, it intimidates them. They get scared. As you can see, he placed his hand on his gun. He was worried about me doing something during my workout, which is, I don't even understand how you can be worried about me doing something during my workout. But the video is actually on YouTube. I have the video on YouTube. If you look up my name, Leroy Robinson Grant, I believe it is on YouTube. If not, you can go to Facebook, look up Leroy King Grant on there too. I had posted to Facebook just to make sure that it is. Yeah, I do a little bit. And just to make sure that everyone gets to see it, I made sure that I posted it everywhere possibly I could, just so everyone is clear that there are rights that are upheld, and they're called inalienable rights, meaning rights they can't take from you. You can't even give them up if you wanted to. And one of them is the freedom of travel. You can't give up inalienable rights because travel was long before they had governments. People were walking around. People were moving around. And cars were moving around before they had regulations on them, because you have the right to travel. Now, they'll try to make up shit in court. They'll try to tell you, oh, it's a vehicle, and try to say all this bullshit. But the Supreme Court, I use Supreme Court law. I use their own laws against them. I don't like to let them try to get me into any kind of interrogation or any kind of argument or anything in court. I file the paperwork. I file my own motions, place them into court, and one of the words you need to learn is file on demand. Because if you go to court, they'll try to say, oh, we can't take it. Oh, it's not rated in this firm. Oh, we want it like this. Oh, we want it like that. No, don't let them do that. You tell them file on demand, which means they have to take it and they have to file it. And they have to put it into the system. They have no choice. So everything you do, make sure you don't give them a choice. Don't let them tell you what to do. You tell them what to do, because always remember, in the Constitution, it literally says, the people of the state institute this Constitution for the United States of America. The people of the United States institute this Constitution for the United States of America. Meaning, you are above the government, not below it. Citizens, by definition, is a subject of a government. And unless you want to be a subject, I don't like being a slave. I've never wanted to be a slave. I'm not trying to be a slave. So I'm not trying to be anybody's subject. And unless you are a subject, you are a people. And people is both plural and individual. So you can be a people or you can be the people. And they will never tell you that in the court, because that ruins everything. Because if you tell the court judge that you are above him because you are a people, he's going to get upset. If you're going to tell him he has no jurisdiction because you haven't been subjugated to a citizen, he's going to get upset. And by law, what most people don't understand too, because they'll tell you, oh, we're using statutory law in courtroom. Sorry, I got something in my eye. They'll say we're using statutory law. There is no such thing as statutory law. That's fiction. There is common law and there is maritime law. Those are only two. There's nothing else. And everything is a subdivision of the two. Maritime law is what they try to use in courts, which is the law of the sea. It is not admissible in court unless you let it be admissible in court. Because the only thing admissible in court, because you are on land, is law of the land, which is common law. Which means if I do no harm to you, there is no case. So there must be a plaintiff. There must be an injured party. There must be someone who you can talk to. There must be an individual, a people that is going against you that you can cross-examine in court. So the state of Maryland, you cannot cross-examine. A cop would have to do it individually off duty and say he's not working for the state, which he's never going to do, and have to file charges against you. He can't be working for the state and file charges against you as a people of the state, because now you're playing both sides. And same thing with the court, the judge. The judge cannot be an intermediary for the court system in a common law court, because a judge has a predisposed bias because he works for the court. He works for the state. So if he works for the state and he's trying you as you're a defendant against the state, well, he's not an unbiased party. He has no jurisdiction. He's never admitted to jurisdiction, because the only way to get jurisdiction is there has to be paperwork. If there's no paperwork, there's no jurisdiction, there's no case, because it's an element of a case. And you must have all 7 elements of a case for there to be one. And jurisdiction is one of them. And if there's no jurisdiction, there is no case. So always, if you really want to piss them off, ask them for jurisdiction. Ask them for a copy of how they obtain jurisdiction and a copy of the jurisdiction. They'll never give it to you. They'll just threaten you. They'll threaten to hold you in contempt of court. They'll threaten you. They'll threaten to arrest you. They'll threaten to excessive fines and fees, which they can't do. They'll threaten everything. They'll try to throw the book at you just for asking for paperwork to make sure their claim is valid. Don't let anybody intimidate you. Don't let everybody bully you. Bullies are bad. I don't like bullies. I never liked bullies. My whole entire life, I dislike bullies. I will not be bullied. I will not be intimidated. You can quote me on that. I can promise you that. You will not get anything from me by trying to bully me. Cops, depending upon the cop, they are a bully. Because if they're telling you what to do, that's a bully. Because cops can't tell you what to do. They can only request. So if a cop is not requesting, then he is a bully. So be sure and be clear. I worked with cops. I work with SWAT team people. SWAT team members. I work with Department of Justice lawyers. I work with FBI lawyers as clients. These are my clients. So I know this stuff. I talk to them about this. No, they don't have authority over you. You need to learn law before you speak. Don't make false claims about stuff you don't know. Because false claims is how people get in trouble. If you're going to make a claim, back it up with facts. Don't just tell me they have jurisdiction and they can tell you what to do. Whatever you do, if you're going to say something, have facts behind you. Police cannot order you. They are not officers in the first place. Cops are hired. Officers are people who are appointed by the people. Officers are elected. Cops are hired. So they can't be officers. So make sure you have your terminology. Go look up Black's Law Dictionary. Go find a dictionary. Look it up. And then come back when you have the words clearly defined. I study Black Law Dictionary. I read it all the time just for GP. Just because I like it. I love law. Love law because it always stays the same. It does not change. You cannot fake it. You cannot bullshit it. You cannot pretend it's not real because they're in your face. The facts are always there in your face regardless of what you want to, your opinion is. I don't like opinions. I like facts. Don't give me your opinion. I didn't ask for your opinion. Give me your facts. If you don't have any facts to back up what you're saying, then your opinion is invalid. So, that is my day. I tried to post the video to Periscope. I don't know how to post to Periscope. But I do bring my facts to court. I don't know who you are, but I bring my facts to court, and that's how I won my case. So, like I said, when you have facts, present them in front of me. Type them out right here. I have the cases if you want. I can shoot you the cases. I can give you cases all you want. Toothbrush to court. Okay, you are obviously ignorant. So I'm gonna start talking to you. What? Let me tell you this. Know your law. Read your law. Learn your law. Don't just understand it, overstand it. Because if you don't, they'll try to get you into a situation where you have had your rights circumvented. Because they have a book, they actually have an anti-government handbook which they use to circumvent law. And if you don't know your law, they'll try to circumvent you. And they always say, there's a quote by a famous judge that says, well, a Supreme Court judge that says, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And if you're ignorant of law, that is your fault. Because you didn't take the time out and to do the due diligence to make sure that you had everything understood clearly to the point where you overstood it. I make sure I overstand law. I don't understand it. I overstand it. I file my own paperwork. Like I said, I plead my own cases. I don't let anyone tell me what to do. I'm out the military. I'm still a Marine because I will always be faithful to the Constitution, but I will not be bullied. So that is it. Enjoy the rest of your day. I enjoyed mine. I got to have an interaction where no law was spoken and somebody attempted to threaten me without any kind of provocation or any kind of evidence. So there's that. And if you are going to come at me with intimidation or threats, like I said, I'm a Marine, so you better be ready to back them up and do what you need to do, because I will. And there are ignorant cops. There's no such thing. I won't call them bad cops. They're ignorant. They don't know any better because nobody taught them any better. Like I said, I have people I train who are cops. I'm a personal trainer by trade, fitness professional, and we talk about this stuff. We discuss this stuff, and Department of Justice lawyers and FBI lawyers and judges. I talk to them about this on a consistent basis, because we always talk. It's funny thing, we always talk about Supreme Court and their policies that they've been enacting lately, which are going against the Constitution, but that's a whole nother subject. So when you have knowledgeable people who understand what the law states, what the statutes state, the difference between judicial policy and law, it makes your life a lot easier to go about, and it makes everything easier to understand, because there's always clarification. They need clarification just as much as I do. So I pick their brain, they pick mine. As long as you understand law, like I said, read it verbatim. The words you think are what they mean, you have no idea what they mean in legal terminology and when you go into a courtroom, because that's not the same. So study long, study hard, and stay aware and stay awake.